are my girl. I cannot wait till you take on the world. Your bubblegum shades and your green hair. When you show up, everyone stares. Save your free economy. Yeah, it's the perfect drug for me. Hey, left behind the BTC and found a big Costco hot dog. You and me, Bliss. Did you know you are mine? Bliss. Jessica, habla, babe. When I'm with you, what can I say? When we're together, baby, I got no fear. All my transactions are peer to peer to peer.
It's a CBDC nightmare.
A purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash.
It's a CBDC nightmare.
Peer-to-peer version of electronic cash.
Jessica, you are my girl. I cannot wait till you take on the world. Your bubblegum shades and your green hair. When you show up, everyone stares. Save your free economy. Yeah, it's the perfect drug for me. Hey, left behind the BTC and found a big Costco hot dog. You and me, Bliss. Did you know you are mine? Bliss. Jessica, habla, babe. When I'm with you, what can I say? When we're together, baby, I got no fear. All my transactions are peer to peer to peer.
It's a CBDC nightmare.
A purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash.
It's a CBDC nightmare.
Peer-to-peer version of electronic cash.
Jessica, you are my girl. I cannot wait till you take on the world. Your bubblegum shades and your green hair. When you show up, everyone stares. Save your free transactions are peer to peer to peer.
It's a CBDC nightmare.
A purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash.
There will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
Increasing the block size to 32 megabytes right now. What would be the top 5 arguments that would get hurled against me?
That's a good one.
There are a few that the big blockers got right.
Ching, like all these coins splash into the wallets of all the winners. I love that.
There's a new threat out there. It's crypto.
Transitioning. We are live.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast, following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. This is episode number 114, Bliss preview and the latest narratives, featuring Ryan Giffin back for his 4th annual appearance on the show, plus also being on the Christmas episode. So you must be one of the top guests we've ever had. Today's Sunday, the 21st of April 2024. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jet is doing the producing, same as always. And like I mentioned, our guest is a regular on the show, always comes on in late April to check in with the BCH scene. An entrepreneur, a BCH promoting YouTuber. He has co-organized Bliss with myself and Jonathan Silverblood. We'll talk about that. He's a BCH merchant. He recently had his birthday. Happy birthday, mate. Welcome to the show, Ryan. How you been doing?
Hello, and thank you. I can't believe so that means it's been 4 years? If it's our 4th
Yeah, we did 21, 22, 23, and now 24, right?
Wow. Oh, man. Yeah, I remember the first time, and it was my first time, I thought it was like so well branded. I watched some of your first episodes, and I remember like being nervous. Still, I wouldn't say the same kind of nervousness now, but excited to be, you've done such a good job building it up and coming back, and just excited to be back and share the new things we've been doing. We've been meeting weekly to work on Bliss, so excited to share about that. It's getting very close, and I appreciate you having me back.
We'll get into those, the stuff about Bliss and also the previous episodes. I've got a whole slide about that because actually I was watching some of the old episodes. Really interesting to look at how things change from then to now, etc. But recently, outside of those things, what have you been doing in the BCH scene? Because I know you've been telling me about obviously running your business, and that's put you in contact with other business owners. So you've been sort of shilling BCH to them, maybe getting some traction there, maybe doing some more sort of B2B BCH commerce. What's the story?
Yeah, so for my day-to-day and my business, we are a BCH friendly business. We hold a substantial amount of BCH on our balance sheet. It's been growing, and we promote a peer-to-peer economy. And right now, if anyone watches this episode, if you could DM me on Instagram, rgiffin89. I'm looking for, I have some large companies that I really want to start accepting, and they're not necessarily like coin agnostic or like just BCH. They know I'm a BCH fan, and they know I want to pay them in that, but they're looking for a BitPay type product. I have a large factory in Miami that wants to, and I also have a couple large restaurant chains that would like to start accepting. My problem is with right now, just not doing it like where they hold the key and on chain, which most of the merchants I adopted do. They just, use like the Bitcoin Cash register and then can set them up with like a wallet like Celine or Paytaka or Bitcoin.com, and then they can receive the coin there. And but they are looking for a easy fiat rail They're interested in keeping some, but not all. And so I've reached out. I got another email. I'm looking for there's another company called Now Payments. If anyone has any type of product that can help people accept BCH, but not necessarily keep all the BCH and have an easy rail to convert it into fiat, that would be nice. It's just, it's very difficult to, the customer service for these companies. And for these bigger companies that are interested, it's not the easiest thing to get your business set up. I think a lot of times, like even just to have my business buy cryptocurrency, it's like a couple of days worth of work of paperwork and compliance, which you don't need it. It's very easy. I show them how to accept crypto just on their phones. They can download, any of these wallets, and I can send them crypto and show them how it works. It's just, if they want to go to dollars, it's not the easiest experience. So that's something I'm working on now. A lot of bigger companies. I'm also looking to sponsor, for the state of Florida, we have what's called every year the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. And it's a big event. Like the opening speaker for the event is the governor of Florida, Governor DeSantis. And then there's breakout panels for what's happening in the industry. And I have these large companies that want to be onboarded. And I was going to sponsor a panel and just talk about why cryptocurrency, why Bitcoin Cash, and what I've onboarded these customers with. I get to speak in front of thousands of people about it. But I feel like if I could really get someone from one of these companies to maybe help me be on this board of this, I'm gonna have a panel of these larger companies, and hey, I started accepting crypto. This is why I like it. This is some of the different coins I'm interested in, and talk about their features. It's something I'm working on right now. I feel like there's a void in the market to create good customer service for this type of product. I'm not sure if anyone else here has used BitPay, but the customer service is pretty difficult.
Yeah, so it's really just a case that BCH is starting to find its footing. But now, if we're going to scale up, right, and we're always talking about onboarding merchants and stuff like that, if we're going to move past just, smaller operations and things like that, we're going to need much, much better tooling around. Like you said, we have the merchant app, and you have some wallets, which are good, but not blowing anyone away. I'll be upfront about that. With Celine, there's tons of stuff we want to do to make that better, and that'll come in time. Give it another year or two of development, that will also improve significantly. Of course, at the same time, we're also trying to add cash tokens. There's just so much going on, and the resources in the community are still a little bit limited. So that is a big message I think that can go out to everyone, is if you're interested in maybe starting a BCH-based business or getting into the scene, that's a huge void that somebody needs to fill, a sort of BitPay style accepting and onboarding for merchants type of solution with a little bit of tech, a little bit of legal compliance, a little bit of accounting. If you could wrap all that up and make it easy to do, there would be just huge demand for that. And like you say, you're starting to hit onto bigger businesses, right, where you're operating at a different scale than if you're just onboarding your local shops or maybe shops with a few employees. Things can be managed a bit ad hoc, but once you get up to millions and millions in revenue a year, hundreds to thousands of employees, it's kind of a different game, right?
It's you could onboard the world actually pretty quickly. And I say that, with some exaggeration, but for any point of sale type product, if they take Visa, MasterCard, various payment systems and cryptocurrency, there's going to be a general interest. I am not going to discriminate against anyone that wants to buy here, but I want to control what it's in. So even if they were just taking your BCH and converting it to fiat, that's a decent start. It doesn't, I know for us purists, it's no, get the BCH, keep it. It's better money. But let people find their discovery in their own world. They'll find the use case on why BCH is better. And but getting them involved and touching it, not feel so foreign from it, and actually accepting it as payment, that's actually a big step. So right now, these companies I'm talking to, they do have some crypto they hold personally. They can generally understand it, but they're they're gonna wait a little bit longer on the adoption curve, unless they have this kind of product. It's like, okay, I can join the ecosystem now. Oh, so this person just paid me a BCH. This person just paid me a BCH, and then like the conversations can grow from there. So that's where, like this one factory I'm talking about, they do over 100 million in revenue and have like 250 employees, and it's going to be nice. And I gave them some BCH when it was like around like 270. I gave it to the owner, the CFO, the director of sales, and like they're excited about it. But like I really think one of these companies, like there's another company called Now Payments. Someone did reach out to me. I was talking to them on Telegram, and they ghosted me. They need a great customer service rep, and like it's like so frustrating when you're not getting good service. It's like there's so much you could do, and like they're curious to the fact that to accept crypto and all that, but like if it's a bad customer experience to set up with, like I don't want to put them in that position too, where it's like, oh, that was kind of annoying, It's like, no, like they were. So anyways, if anyone from BitPay watches this, or anyone that has good, crypto to fiat rails that's compliant, in the States, please reach out to me. And I like once I can get these couple, you can actually, I'm sponsoring this panel. You can come and join me on the panel, and we can talk to thousands of other business owners on, why Bitcoin Cash, and why an easy way that people are able to start accepting crypto. Because we'll have too, like this one restaurant chain, he's like down, but he wants this type of system too, because he has all kinds of partners that, just dealing with the different currencies, making decisions. If it was this kind of product, it's no issue for him. But if he's like, hey, I'm going to start accepting money in crypto, and then like who holds the crypto, and you can do shared wallets and features like that, but it's a little more complicated.
Yeah, we certainly need to, to me, it's just really a sign that we need to get out of being a bit scrappy. We're a bit scrappy right now, and that's okay. It's got us this far, especially in the context of BCH. It's understandable with everything that went on, right? But it's really time that the community needs to start leveling up, because like you say, it's so important in business or in anything. Your first shot is going to be your best, right? If you do all the work to get somebody in the mindset to be accepting or interested in what you're interested in, if you give them something and it kind of falls through, or they're not that impressed or whatever, then rebuilding that a second time is just so fucking difficult once you've sort of fixed the problems or whatever, right? So you don't want to take that shot until you're really solid on it. And I certainly agree. I don't think the ecosystem is necessarily at a super solid point on a lot of that, which is fine. It's an opportunity. People will come in, people might listen to this show or whatever. The market will provide a solution, but it is going to take a little bit of time, and we're just not quite there yet. I think obviously the price pumps would help a lot in adding a lot of resources to the community, but that's kind of a separate thing. You can't really control that.
Yeah, I think we can be hard on BCH, but like the good thing is like all these companies that do offer this kind of product do accept BCH. They're just not coin agnostic, right? But so BCH is recognized as that and treated, well by these, payment services. So yeah, if we did it in our own ecosystem, which I like how you're being critical. It's like who, not how. Like you want to fix the problem, let's let's in the ecosystem figure it out, but. I'm just looking for companies that are already like do this, and I don't know why, man. It's like why the customer service just can't be good. You reach out and like, hey, I'd like to set up. I don't know if anyone else has shared this. If you have, let me know in the comment section below. But have you had much luck using? I think even Coinbase has a feature too for businesses. But yeah, if anyone, again, I'll hop on a call if anyone wants to help with that. And then, yeah, I think there's a real opportunity for any BCH businesses to kind of, it would take some more regulatory compliance. There's a lot of things when you're turning crypto into dollars that would be, I think it's SEC inserts themselves and creates all kinds of rules and regulations around it. If they see you acting as some kind of exchange, there's all the exchange laws, right? That they make things unnecessarily difficult. But it is going to be a heavy burden that we're going to have to climb and becoming a competing currency against the dollar for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me a little bit, let's zoom in a little bit then. So that's the bigger companies that you're trying to sell to. Now you've got your restaurant, Ravish, which is in the photo that you've been accepting BCH. Well, last year on the show, I think that was actually sort of a bit more new in your portfolio. And you were talking about trying to incentivize the staff there in terms of getting them to promote BCH and run like a weekly competition of who does the most BCH sales or things like that. How have you found it managing a small BCH accepting business there, like with that as a case study?
Yeah, I do a quarterly meetup. So every few months I do a BCH meetup, and I have a lot of interesting and cool people come. We also, through accepting, we have built a decent amount on our balance sheet again. And also there's, I think, the price appreciation of BCH has just allowed it to become a bigger part of our ecosystem. I live in where the restaurant is, Ravish. It's on in Lantana, Florida, on Ocean Avenue, which is right next to a town called Manalapan. It's a waterfront on the intercoastal kind of ocean area where there's a lot of mega mansions, and so I hold meetups. And the last time I went there, there's this one guy, very wealthy individual. He's had some crypto, he likes BCH, he holds some Bitcoin, all this, that. And, I showed him the shareable link feature to send him some BCH. And he's like, why BCH really? Like, why? Like, I guess it's faster, it's cheaper, but what, how do you think it's really going to work? And I sent him a shareable link with BCH, and, maybe it's like $5 or something. And he just opened it, he hit, you download the app, hit skip, and boom, the money was there. And I got his number. This was only like a couple weeks ago. And he's like, his mind was like blown. I don't know exactly what he was thinking because he didn't share, but he's like, could I do this with like $50 million? I was like, sure. And he goes, this is huge. And we've stayed in contact with him. And I guess what I'm getting to is there's I heard when you're talking to billionaires, like they only see 9-figure problems, and I think sometimes we can think too small when we're thinking about something. Like there's real opportunity in innovators that you can show the products and features to, where they may implement these things into their businesses to do who knows what. But that was something really cool. He works in tech currently, and so it's been cool to create a community and possibly, get some more investment into BCH type products with that, which is wealthier individuals. And I don't know. I'm hosting my golf tournament again. It's coming up in June 3rd, where we'll have breakout crypto special. Actually, we have a meeting on Monday at the restaurant. The staff uses it. There is casual payments that do occur. We do use the Bitcoin Cash register. So if you're in South Florida, go to Ravish off Ocean, come in, spend your BCH. If you'd like to stay connected, follow me on my social. I do a quarterly meetup there. And the staff that has received, right now, like anyone that's received crypto in the last year or so is like pretty happy and like, hey, this stuff goes up in value. It goes down in value sometimes too, but yeah, it's probably going to go up over time. So yeah.
That's really interesting. They only see 9-figure problems. I like that. And I guess that's a big part of the permissionless sort of aspect of BCH is you can never know where exactly it's going to take off, right? Or you can never predict exactly what the next stage of development is going to happen, because the world's a big place and people find things from their own point of view, right? So I'm expecting that over the next year, we're going to see, like we were just talking about, these bigger businesses. That might be one avenue. It might be some billionaire investment. It might be a new microtransactions app. You don't know exactly what it's going to be. So I think a lot of what the community can do is to try and facilitate the environment for anything to happen, right? That's a big part of why I do the podcast, is because it's just providing the information and the access, and then somebody can get all that, understand what the community is about, understand how it works, understand how to find more resources and get involved in the discussion. And then from there, they can take it in whatever direction they want, right? And I think also similar with cash tokens, with the wallets, we're doing a really good job of building sort of the building blocks that aren't, it isn't like Lightning Network or something like, we're all in on this and it's going to work. It's more like you set up the playground, you set up the sandbox, and then people build whatever they want in there, right? So I would encourage that mentality in people, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's definitely where I'm fitting in the market. And, you know, with my general, I would say weekly or even daily involvement in BCH, is that's where, you know, with a couple things. With one, the expansiveness of my time, you know, so that's something that I can provide. And then, you know, when, you know, we do personality surveying in our business. Actually, Jet did one. Jet's I believe an enterpriser, which is pretty cool.
Good to know. Good to have him on the team there. We've got a good enterpriser over here.
But if you look at the on the bottom there's it has L and I, which L measures your logic to see if the individual, you know, value logic over emotion on the spectrum, and then there's the I. The I and the A are very interesting because the A is like your drive and ability to see vision. And then your I is the ability to be like highly innovative and like come up with, you know, things that like people don't see. And if you have that high I and high A, you know, it's just, again, trying to attract people that have vision and have innovative capabilities. I have a pretty high A. My I is not like extremely high. So like I can build a better mousetrap, but I'm not the person capable of building something entirely new. But you know, I have vision and can see like this BCH thing is like going to be something big, but maybe I don't have the ability to create that next big thing within it, but I can attract the people that can. And I don't know, like my mind went there and just learning about like kinds of people and why you need an ecosystem. You need lots of people, that with all kinds of different tools and skills. Because the philosophy is right, the chain works amazing, and you know, we have grown in market cap. We have a lot of good things to talk about today, but like, how do we become, you know, that multi-$100 billion market cap or $1 trillion market cap coin? It's going to take some pretty big, innovative ideas.
Yeah, and that's something I think it's worth touching on as well too. Like I've done some of those personality survey things too with work and corporate companies. They love it. Sort of the point they're trying to get across to you really is that there's not a right way to do it. You know, like some people like me, I'm always score really highly in whatever the category is that is basically like outspoken. It's like you're the one who will push the envelope, but that also means you're going to piss off the people who are the more let's all get along, you know, calm types or whatever, right? So it's sort of a case of you need, like it takes a village to raise a child. It's kind of like that. It takes a community to create a cryptocurrency. And I think that's something I sometimes see a little bit of in the BCH community that I think is slowly dying down. But one of the reasons that it was struggling for those years where there was infighting and splits and all that, and even afterwards as a sort of hangover, was that people were a little bit too prescriptive about how they thought it had to go. Like the BSV people, for instance, they were like, it has to be unlimited gigablocks. Like you can't have anything else like that. And then on the other side, you had the sort of BCH people saying like, we can't have this, you know, ridiculously low transactions, or we can't do it, you know, with governments or with compliance or whatever, right? But you sort of got to understand that as the community grows, we have to strike a balance between, on one hand, the core values of the network and what works for BCH is not necessarily the same for any other crypto or any other financial product. So we do need to stick to our values, because if you dilute everything too much, it all just doesn't work. But on the other hand, you can't be too precious about who is getting involved and what they're doing with it and so forth, right? Because at the end of the day, you only get to where you're at with the level you're at, right? Somebody new is going to bring something good, but they might also have some kind of strange ideas or things that don't really match up. And I just see sometimes people being a bit like, oh, well, I'm not really super excited if this person or that person or whoever gets involved, because I don't like that they X, Y, or Z. And it's kind of like, you're just going to have to take the good with the with the bad there. And on the whole, growth is going to be good, especially with a compounding network effect. And when the network is moving in the right direction, that's a great time for more people to get on board, because they will naturally conform to what is already working. If they'll bring some new ideas, and if those new ideas are good, everybody will see the results and get excited about it. And if they bring some bad ideas, which some of the time they will do, they'll see, A, that everyone is not that excited about it, and B, unless they can make a very convincing case, they'll have to change their mind to continue being part of the community, right? I don't know. That's just my... Oh, here we go. Ryan's... Am I back? Hello.
There.
Yes. A Jeremy rant. Classic Jeremy rant. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
all right.
no, we'll wait for him to come
fine.
back in. So yeah, Jet, you're an enterpriser. Which it's funny. I told Jet my partner is an enterpriser, and enterprisers are terrific entrepreneurs and just general visionaries. Like that's probably why you're involved in BCH, because you can see like it can be another way. Like not everyone has that capability. Not everyone's can see like how these things can be different in the future. And it's funny. I was telling you that, I would definitely say chasing the kind of entrepreneurial dream. Like I've done that before, and it's like you got to deal with so many compliance and this and taxes and that's kind of where on the D trait, Jet, you have vision, but I have a lower D. It's called a conformity trait, where following through to the process and every little thing gets annoying. We're kind of close in terms of personality set. I'm a daredevil, which means I probably like to break a few more rules than you do when doing something. You're probably a little bit better at processes than me, but they're still relatively annoying.
Yeah, I remember I did Jordan Peterson's Big Five personality test probably close to 6 years ago now. And it was interesting. My entire life, I've been scored as an introvert, but with the Big Five test, they break introversion or that type, that category of personality type into agreeableness and I think sociability or something, like politeness or something like that. And I am in a room of 100 people, the second least agreeable or something like that.
I laugh because I've been in a room with you, 100 people, and you weren't agreeable. In St. Kitts, you had to go and take a break after hearing.
I forgot about that.
My mind went there right away.
I forgot I yelled. That was high school again. I was like, I can't believe this guy's telling me this shit. All right, everyone back?
Yeah, I think so. I've changed over my Wi-Fi, so it should be good. Should be good.
Yeah, you're on a roll there.
Yeah, classic Jeremy rant. Anyway, the idea is, look, people are going to bring the good and the bad to BCH, and I think we're in a strong enough position to accept that. So try and be flexible and open-minded to new people joining the community, because nobody is or will be perfect, and by and large they'll kind of tend to get with the program if they really want to be here and they really see value in what we're doing. So I just think that's a good thing to keep in mind. All right, let's touch on the price. BCH price is down, but it's on the way back up from a couple of days ago. 100 megasats of BCH is worth $509.98. One BTC PAT, which is down. One BTC SAT buys 127.2 BCH SATs, which is also way down. What do they call it in technical terms? We've regressed or whatever the word is, relapsed. I don't know, from the heights that we were at, but we'll be on the
consolidated.
Retraced. We've retraced. It's a retrace, guys. Don't worry about it. We're just a retrace. One ETH buys 620.8 megasats, which is also way down. Bliss is in 23 days, and the tickets will be available for 9 more days. We'll touch on that in a second. But firstly, on the market action, Ryan, how are you feeling? I think you said on the Christmas episode 2K by the end of year, right? That was looking a lot more feasible when we already pumped up to the 600-700 range, right? How are you confident now?
Yeah, I'm still extremely bullish on BCH and the market in general, but specifically, I'm, in general in the last year, I would almost say surprised on how much BCH is outperforming the market, the general crypto market. So I think that's we went up a lot, we sold off some. That's the way markets work. Nothing goes up in a straight line. But I think my general thesis right now is why BCH is still drastically undervalued, because I do think the market was generally pricing in Lightning as the BCH killer and the reason why you do not need BCH. And now that narrative, I think the consensus, the market is forced to reevaluate, what is going to be a crypto payment, tool. And it's looking like it's not likely to come from a large market cap coin like Bitcoin. So the market's forced to reevaluate BCH's value. And from that perspective, it's still drastically undervalued to be, what's the ratio today? It's still, we're not even still 1%.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still not even 1%. So you're telling me it's not going to be, it doesn't make any sense, right? At least it has a 10 to 20 to 30% shot, of overtaking BTC. The market's slowly getting there. Again, unless, I think BTC has a real shot to take market share, and so does BCH, but they're failing. I was just I was in Denver on Tuesday night, and I had a nice steak dinner, and the restaurant had an auto tip service, so it was automatically 18%. And he goes, "Well, you're welcome to tip extra." And I was like, "Do you like crypto?" And he's like, "Yeah, actually I do." And he pulled out his phone and he gave me a SegWit address. And so I sent him, I sent him $25 in BTC. Took 3 days and $7 to get there. And it's just even SegWit or Lightning, there's no way. If you just took BCH, it's way easier. And the market's just still so mispriced. And you see some wild, if you search Bitcoin Cash on YouTube, there's this one bald guy, he's heavy into BCH Grayscale. He's the way the pricing's off.
Ethan Galstad, you're talking about, right?
Yeah, he's you're hearing, and I thought I was bullish, and you thought I was over the top. These people are calling for 50,000 BCH. I am not gonna come anywhere near that or play around with that. But you could say, yeah, I could see how the market is mispricing so much. You could come to some theoretical reason why that should be the price. But certainly 2,000 by end of the year is very feasible, because typically what I've seen is, you kind of get a buy the rumor, sell the news going into the halving. So much has been priced in, the halving event already occurred for a while. But then I think we go chop it up all summer, and then you'll actually see the real supply and demand, start to push these coins up a bit. And then you just have them becoming overvalued. And then you have the large market caps dumping into smaller market caps to move pricing. And I think BCH goes over $2,000 in the next year.
It's funny you mentioned that about Ethan Galstad. I'm not going to be talking to him specifically, but somebody similar in that kind of sphere is probably going to be on the next episode. So you can all look forward to that, and we'll get a bit of an insight on, I think there's this little YouTube community going on, which is more in the sort of pumping up the crypto hype type of vibes, right? They react to the news and stuff, but it's mostly in service of we're going to the moon. And then they have this ideas that, there's gonna, BTC is gonna go to 400,000, and then if BCH improves on the ratio but also is riding that wave, then it can get to 50,000. I think that's kind of their prediction or their possibility, at least. They're never saying like this is 100% a guarantee, but they're just saying it's possible. I really struggle with that kind of stuff because I tend to see things sort of from the fundamentals perspective that I feel like I've been saying, maybe BTC has kind of hit about as much hype as it's going to get. Like, even as time ticks on, we're now past the halving, like the ETF money is flowing in and whatever. Is BTC mooning? No, there's no retail euphoria. Like I said, I was not super bullish on a super cycle or even a cycle. Like, the last cycle was 3x for BTC. We're not even close to that so far. I'm not even seeing any catalysts for it. And I think people who say BCH to 50 grand, of course I'm predicting global reserve currency, we will go past 50 grand, but I don't think we really understand that by the time BCH hits 50 grand, it will just be absorbing all of crypto, probably, right? If BCH got to 50 grand, even if BTC made it to 150, at that point the flippening is just in momentum and all the value in crypto will be being sucked into BC. I can't really see a scenario like BCH gets to 50 grand, but that's just like in the correct ratio to ETH and stuff like that. I don't really see it happening.
I think there's a real problem with that, and I've certainly probably been subjected to it by like, if you really like are waiting for like this thesis of like the super high price to happen, especially if you're someone like me that is, during the bear markets, like over allocate my personal wealth into crypto, right? Like, just because like I think we generally understand this market better than others. So I generally need to offset that at some point for other things in my life. And if you just go so high with it and you're sticking to the thesis, you're never going, if you're trying to balance your life a little bit with, like always use crypto, always have crypto, always use BCH, sometimes overindulge yourself in crypto, and that's where I'm at today. So I think following these, unlikely narratives, even though they're possible, but I don't think they're probable, it can be unhealthy in terms, especially if you're following my strategy. But yeah, if you look at I don't think BTC has anywhere the amount of return that BCH will have, but I think I've said it'll go over 100 grand. But I also do think the BTC BCH ratio could easily go to 2 to 3% on a nice pump, which means 100 grand BTC, 2-3 grand BCH. That's perfectly logical, and I think how they derive a lot of these people that even just have any interest in crypto at all, like they don't like to have like the real fundamental conversations. I'm in a chat on WhatsApp with one of my neighbors in my neighborhood. Him and his girlfriend. His girlfriend is very good friends with Michael Saylor. And
Small world.
What's that?
Small world,
Yeah, like they go out on New Year's on his yacht and all this. And I posted, and I didn't know she was in this chat too. It's a WhatsApp chat, probably has like 10 to 15 people in it. And someone posted that picture of Michael Saylor, like, Bitcoin, don't know what the fuck it does, but for everything else, there's Visa, MasterCard. And she got like personally offended by it. She's like, oh, that's my friend. And then I tried to have the fundamental conversation and talk about like, oh, this is, why, I say this. Sorry, my kid's just walking here. But, and I shared the documentary, and I think most people watched it, Who Killed Bitcoin, greatly narrated. And at least their conversations were able to understand a little bit better. They're not all the way there, but they still really like Bitcoin and Michael Saylor. I personally think Michael Saylor is going to be like one of the worst things that's ever happened to crypto, but that's another story. But
are we going to get a repeat appearance from Miles on the podcast after a few years later?
He's a lot bigger and maybe a little more grumpier these days, but yeah.
All right, that's the market talk for today. Let's have a chat about Bliss coming up on the 14th of May. Obviously, we have also made an announcement that we're going to be ending the public ticket sales on the 30th of April. So you have 9 days from today, and on the 30th of April we will delist all the public tap swap Jessicas, so any that are not sold will no longer be available. We will still have them around, so if you at the very last minute suddenly decide you really want one or something, you can get in contact with me or with Ryan or with Jonathan to maybe pick one up, but there's only 9 more days for them to trade publicly, or after that you can also obviously buy one on the secondary market from somebody else who already has one if you do a deal or they trade it on TapSwap. The remaining Jessicas that are not sold are going to be burnt probably at the event, or maybe just slightly after. We're going to just send them all off to the abyss, which will increase the scarcity for everybody who does have one. So we are being a responsible crypto project in that sense. We did consider, well, what if we kept them around and used them for giveaways or future things like that? But when we were talking about it, Jonathan just said, like, we just got to burn them all. So any unloved Jessicas will be off to the cryptographic void. If you want one, now's your chance to get them. That's all I'll say about that. But we've been hard at work organizing things, getting everything arranged over the last 5 or 6 months, right? It's been a while now. Ryan, tell me about that process. How's it been organizing Bliss?
Yeah, so Jonathan, or you started with Jonathan. Jeremy talked about doing the event. You guys have seen I've done some events. And you're like, hey, he wants to get something together. Would you help? And I said, absolutely. I'm not like the master at events, but I've done some, and I think I was helpful in some of the budget building and kind of what the day should look like. But then, what I really liked, Jeremy, we've had, a pretty good friendship now for 4 years, and I've really enjoyed Jonathan. He's incredibly dry and funny. But the experience overall, he's really been the visionary of the event, and we just try to help him and support him, and so because of that, it's gonna be a very his mindset and tools and network a builder friendly event. Like if you want to build or you want to know what's building in BCH and the people and the talent behind there, this is an amazing event to be at. And that's essentially what's going to be the product that we're going to be using for the years coming, because the people that are in this room. So lots of builders and developers. It's very, very heavy focus on that, the people that are coming. So not so much as much fanboy retail. There probably is some of that coming too, but a lot of quality, computer engineers. And so super excited to see it. And I really enjoyed working closer with someone that's very understands BCH, those technical levels, as it's taught me, like, hey, we actually do have some of like the best talent and that I've seen in crypto. So that's been part of the experience for me. I can't believe it's under a month, right? Is it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I got to do that 14-hour flight, so that'll be fun. Still like getting myself mentally prepared for that. Just excited to see a lot of friends that I haven't seen in a while. And again, it's going to be very builder friendly, and I'm excited to see and learn more, especially now we're a year into cash tokens. That we have we have a couple speakers just speaking on the DeFi aspects of that. And even just doing the Jessica NFTs, it's like, there's, how many other ways can you use the product in like your businesses, or like we're using it as a ticket, right? Why couldn't that be like a, some kind of membership program into any of my businesses, or having, using an NFT for something like that. So I have questions when I get there, and people that can maybe help me do something with cash tokens. But yeah, excited for the burn, burn it down. I think that, again, like getting into the interest in NFTs, and like they can have monetary value, but then again, you have security laws and understanding that, because they should like have monetary value. Like one day our NFTs, I think, will be worth tens of thousands of dollars. We were one of the first use cases of NFTs for like a BCH conference. And not that I want to speculate on it, but I think that's what NFTs do. They bring fungible, they bring, scarce value to imagery on a protocol. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's something I don't want to make any big promises about sort of any of this, right? But in launching these Jessica NFTs and so forth, I was really happy that we did that collaboration with BCH Gurus, where you can now use the Jessica NFTs on there, right? Which is especially once the other ones have been burnt and the sale has ended, like that's the only way you can get in there with a profile picture that is not one of the gurus. So you really stand out as a bit of a hype BCH, a serious BCH holder and so forth, right? Which is super cool. And I think over time, I don't want to make any specific promises, but hopefully we can keep adding value to the whole Jessica series, right? So people were always asking like, oh, is there any benefit? Do I get any airdrops or different things like that? Maybe in the future. I don't know. The primary thing, and Jonathan was very clear to us, I remember when I brought this up, about like the first thing is the ticket. You should be getting it to get a ticket. Don't just get it because you just want one. Like you should actually want to come to the event, and that's the main thing involved. But that said, now that we have this little community of Jessicas, we'll see what kind of comes out of that in the future. And like this, again, this is totally hypothetical, but I can imagine that if we did a similar thing next year, maybe we do sort of a pre-sale where you can upgrade your Jessica to the next one at a cheaper price, or maybe you can get a special edition one if you've converted a Jessica into a new one. So there'll be sort of like the second tier holders will be the ones who are getting it for the first time, right? So you'll be able to sort of like slowly level up your ticket year by year, and then maybe people who are at certain tiers get a certain different, access or something. I don't know. There's loads of cool ideas that we can do, right? But obviously, like you say, there's only one chance to get the Jessicas, and it's the next 9 days. I think also, like you said about the builders, that's something that we can say that I think might be helpful to anybody else considering running a BCH event or considering it is, I was a little bit surprised in the sense that we had a really easy time, relatively speaking, getting sponsors for the event. There was quite a lot of interest in that. Now, obviously, we're sort of well embedded in the scene, which I think helped. If you just came in from outside, it would be hard to have that trust, but maybe you could collaborate with somebody who did in order to get going. But we had a really easy time getting sponsors, and like you said, the builders and the response from the actual people who are contributing to the scene was very high. So there's going to be a lot of that. The retail interest was a little bit lower, and I don't know if that's maybe indicative of where we're at in the market cycle, or if in next year or maybe in 2 years it might be the opposite, right? We might just be getting flooded with people who are like, what's going on in BCH? I want to be in BCH. I want to get blah, blah, blah. But it was quite interesting to see that, like, we targeted, which was a bit of an ambitious target, but we targeted 100 tickets. And I think we're going to end up somewhere in the 60 to 80 range. So we got like a good amount of the way there, but it wasn't like we sold out. But of those 60 or 80 people, the builders and the actual talent that's going to be there is super, super stacked. So maybe that's just indicative of anybody else who wants to run a BCH event, maybe consider doing it more like a hackathon style or something like that. That was one of the lessons I drew away from, at least what we've got done so far in organizing the event. Did that strike you the same way?
Yeah, I think it went extremely well on a lot of fronts, and definitely always happy to see, like, again, the sponsorship money was there very quickly, and my businesses donated, Jeremy, your business donated, and some other ones that you'll see like advertised. But there's also and I've done doing BCH events. This people that wanted to help didn't really care to have any of their things pushed. They just really want to make, are happy to see, and want like people like all the builders getting together. Like, who knows what's going to come out of this event? Hey, these are all the things we're doing on every, corner of the planet, and putting us all in one room for a couple of days, and understand the value of that. And to create more innovative products for then retail to use, right? So I think there's been like this general thing, like retail, but I think if you also look at like we're in like Triliana, Slovenia. Like it's not maybe, like we're like, for me, like someone in the States, it's like, hey, if I was attaching to an event in Miami and I knew the promoters down there and I could, find more retail in the area. Like, so I think like just where it is and like the resources and the capabilities of people we had to get retail there were rather limited. And, So I think we wanted to be a little bit higher. I think we kind of shot high and landed in a very good place. I think it's going to be an amazing event and probably more of a quality event than if it was just like retail, YOLO, into the coin, let's go to the moon type thing. No, it's like it's going to be in the room like, hey, we're building the future of the financial system, and look at all the upgrades we've done over the years, cash tokens, and now the ABLA upgrade. Like I think it's going to be. While we wanted to have it be everything to everyone, we struck on what was most important, and that's having the most talented people come together in a room and continue building.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, we're going to be celebrating ABLA, of course. Now it's been interesting because that's been flying under the radar a little bit, I think, in terms of we have mentioned it, obviously, in promoting the event, but we haven't been going out, oh, it's ABLA, it's going to be huge, anything like that, right? And that's kind of ironically a very good thing, I think, right? It's going to be a huge upgrade. It's going to make a big difference. But what's been fascinating is relative to other crypto networks or other BCH upgrades or what have you in the past, there's not really controversy about it, The whole process of the chip process does seem to be doing a great job of this all got hashed out and discussed and everybody put in feedback and all that. It got agreed. Then everybody had a while to sit with it. Everybody's come around to it as a pretty good idea. Then the implementations have been done. It's been tested and all that, right? So it's not hype in the sense that it's leading up to this big critical moment of, yes, it all worked. Like we all already know it works. Everybody's already just kind of like, that's great. And actually, I think what we'll obviously celebrate ABLA, but what I think is also going to be discussed quite seriously at the conference is going to be what are the upgrades for next year, right? So we're kind of getting ahead of the game in terms of like the VM limit tweaks are very sort of popular, very highly discussed at the moment. People are very interested in that. UTXO commitments, is that maybe something that we can start working on now and get something ready in November that would then deploy next year? Sub-Satoshis has been floated around. Maybe these things need to cook for next year or the year after, but if we start talking about them now, then you give it a nice long runway for everyone to get on board, for all the details to get hashed out and so forth. And I think that's a really healthy place to be. And if we can be setting that precedent and also like this Bliss, it's more of a vindication of that rather than the momentum that gets it over the line, if you know what I'm saying. I think that's a really, really nice change of pace for the BCH community to be ahead of the game rather than in conflict and fighting, right?
Yeah. I mean, even with, just the ABLA upgrade, like it's just, protecting the ecosystem from a static block size, and the value is probably underestimated of that today, but when we're doing 100 TPS, that's going to be something really glad that we did, and not having the intention to do something, encourage more entrepreneurs and builders to come to the ecosystem because they're not going to be running into issues here. And then, it brings up a great point. What next? What's important? What's going to move the needle? And these type of things in a decentralized network, is very, often problematic. That's why in most forks were, because, consensus could not be made. So, the more you can get in front of those things and, for me, the reason I'm still here in BCH is because I've genuinely agreed with the consensuses we've come to over the years. And, we still have an amazing peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and how can we make it better?
Yeah, like you say, that ABLA getting the road paved ahead of time, it kind of shows that professionalism that we were just talking about before with the commercial tooling. That might be the next thing to come up, right? But you need to have, because nobody's going to go and make a business and do all that stuff around it if the core devs are busy like battling it out, day after day, right? So it's like, get that right, and then you can worry about the next thing, yeah?
Yeah. Super excited, man. But what about you? If you could share in your experience? Like, we've worked hard on this, man. We've a lot of hours. Just so everyone knows here, we have our weekly call. We all check in. We share something positive that happened in our week. We have our to-dos, and we're in a good place right now. I feel like it's pretty much smooth sailing, just tying up loose ends. I'm going to be flying out May 9th, but what's that event been for you, Jeremy?
I've really enjoyed it. I think Jonathan deserves a huge amount of the credit. I mean, you and I obviously have contributed and helped out, but he has certainly done the heavy lifting to pull it all together. And I think everybody, when they're there, should be complimentary to him and stuff if you enjoy it, because he's done a ton of work to make it happen. I think on his part as well too, he had sort of a slightly different idea for what he wanted to do initially. He initially wanted to do, I think, only like a very small, very technical meetup and all that. And I think for him, and also maybe for us, it's been quite cool to see, once you get collaborating with different people, how different ideas fuse into things, right? Different perspectives. Like, when I was talking to him about it, and then we had to come up with the name, so he actually came up with a list of names, and Bliss was on there, and I walked through a few of his suggestions, and I didn't really like them, but I did like Bliss. And then I made the first Jessica NFT poster, and I sent it to him, and he was like, "That's awesome. That's exactly the right vibe. This is super cool." But I think if it had just been him doing it, that kind of thing wouldn't have happened, right? One thing sort of leads to another. So there's an exponential compounding effect as you get more talent in the room. So this organizing the event, the three of us, I see that as a bit of a microcosm of the event itself, where you'll get that at an exponentially bigger scale, right? With 60 really hardcore BCHs in the same room, the amount of conversations and projects and so, like, for instance, BCHN, which is now the main implementation, the most commonly used implementation, that came, and general protocols as well too, I believe, came out of the 2019 Townsville conference, and they're now huge, right? BCH wouldn't be where it is today without them. So if we can facilitate even one, but more likely several of those kind of new collaborations and stuff to come out of it, it will be enormous. And it also speaks a lot to that you can get a lot more out of a limited pool of resources if you have a group of aligned people, because everybody can play to their strengths, right? Jonathan already had some sort of credibility and connections more behind the scenes in the industry because he's been around a little bit long. I already had the promotional elements to it a little bit more sorted. You already had some of the logistics parts to it and some of the practical considerations. And so between all of those, if we had tried to do it without any of those elements, it would have been a steep learning curve that somebody would have had to struggle through, and there would have been delays and problems and all that. But when you just fuse together those different strengths and everybody can concentrate on the part that is already, for them, relatively speaking, easy, as opposed to having to do it for the first time, then you can get something really good out of it. So that would be my main thoughts, I'd say.
I want to echo what you said. It's been when you see Jonathan, like, he was the visionary. He's been the push, and he's done most of the heavy lifting. Even some weeks I feel like, hey, just giving him a nice soundboard and other things to take off him, and it's not easy. It takes. Like I said, we probably are going to have 40, 50 hours of just phone call time into each other, then the behind the work stuff. And we're all busy in our lives building our businesses and stuff like that, but come together. And I think it's going to be an amazing event. Like I said, if you look at go to bliss.cash, and if you haven't got your ticket, get your ticket. But the whole itinerary is laid out there, all the speakers, lunch breaks, dinners. We're planning some fun events for the first night, and a nice mixer after the upgrade. Like, a lot of little details go into the 2 days to make sure they're amazing. And I feel like with all the legwork and things thought through and talked through, and being a soundboard, right? Hey, is this a good idea? Doing it alone is not as fun. And yeah, you may have a learning curve, because it's easier to learn. It's cheaper to learn from other people's mistakes than your own. I shared when I did my first BCH. golf tournament. I lost $10,000. And so I always share that, like, we're over budget right now. This is amazing. So.
Yes.
Or under budget.
I'm also interested to see. Yeah. I'm also interested to see what happens with the announcements. The BCH scene has been a little bit quiet the last month or so, and I sort of feel like, well, maybe people are just cooking up something, because that's the other thing. If you create a Schelling point like this, with the upgrade already was one, and now we've layered Bliss on top of it, it gives kind of a nice moment for people to think, okay, let's just quietly prep up what we're going to do, and then we'll just announce it like it's a decentralized thing. You know, there's not some master conspiracy to do this, but it just naturally tends to happen. So one thing I can share, Jonathan has already said he's been working hard on NFC card tech for doing backups, and I would guess also potentially payments, but nobody quote me on that, because he might be like, no, it's not for that. But for doing slicker backups with physical NFC cards, I know he's been working on that, and he said to me that I could say that's going to be kind of premiered a little bit at the conference, so people can look forward to that. And I'm sure there will be other things in the pipeline. He also asked me to give special shout outs to, or not special, but just shout outs to a bunch of the people who are going to be there, because he thought that made it a bit more tangible. The people who are thinking, oh, okay, maybe should I come along or not? I'm not, I'm on the fence or whatever. So we've got Matthew from Cash and Eyes, Dagger and Harva from Cauldron, Callisti from Celine, David Shattuck from A Fifth of Gaming, Kalen from BCHN, and Fulcrum. Fiendish Crypto is going to be there. Corbin from Bitcoin.com. Obviously, all of us on the call here, Ryan, Jeremy, Jet, and Jonathan. I know Ray uses Bitcoin Cash is going to be there as well too. A bunch of other people, but just maybe having some specific names might help you to really connect with and think, wow, this is where a lot of the action in the ecosystem is going to be. That's surely the general protocols guys, emergent reasons, and imaginary username, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of good activity, and that's there's plenty of other people who've bought tickets, and I think there might be a couple surprises in there as well too.
I've heard that leaked. There's going to be some announcements in some of these speeches that are being withheld, like for sure. So excited to hear what people are bringing to the celebration for sure.
And if you can't make it, of course, we will be doing a live stream of it all, so you can tune in from wherever you are in the world and get the info. Of course, it's not the same as being there. You don't get to talk shit with people at the side and stuff, but you can at least see a bit of what's going on and get the main headline notes. We will be trying to add, obviously, some coverage to that. You can follow the Bitcoin Cash podcast. Will be the channel where we stream everything and so forth, and also put up updates and announcements like I did when I went to BCH 22 at Insane Kits, right? So I think that's the main notes, and I'm really excited to see everyone there. I think it's going to be really smooth, cool event. Obviously it is our first time running it, so I'm sure, like anything, there'll always be some hiccups or problems along the way. That's going to be inevitable, but I think regardless, it's going to be a banger event to be at, and I've been really impressed to see the community responding to it so favorably. People have been really looking forward to it. Big V Tokyo says, would be cool to see a list of countries from which the attendees are traveling. This shows amazing commitment from the community. Yeah, that's a good idea. We should do that when we're there. Maybe we can get a list of countries and then put up a map highlighted with all the places different people.
That's a really, because it's probably going to be like 30 different countries.
Yeah, it'll be like 50 people from like 40 countries or something like that. Yeah. That's it. I can rep Australia, even though technically I'm flying from the UK. Maybe I can double count myself. Just make sure we get that Southern Hemisphere rep in there. 14-hour flight. You make me laugh, Ryan. Don't tell me about 14-hour flights.
I came in Friday night from a 4.5-hour flight, and And I was like feeling like, oh, get me off this plane. I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna bring like some NyQuil to try to pass out or something.
Yeah. Definitely the sleeping mask and the what do you call them? The noise cancelling headphones. Huge difference.
Okay.
Huge difference. I'll talk to you about that afterwards as well. That's highly recommended. Makes a big difference. Okay. Like I said at the start of the show, this is actually your 4th annual appearance on the show. So for people who don't know or are interested, I highly recommend you can go back and listen to some of these previous episodes, especially if you're new to the show. If you joined maybe in the last year, the show has actually been growing quite a lot, especially in the last couple of months. And if you need a bit more BCH, or you really want to appreciate how things have changed, this is a fantastic way to do it. So you are on episode 15, April 2021, and I've got here just a few of the topics that we talked about on each of those shows, and I think having a bit of a look back at that is really quite informative. So on that episode 15, we talked about BTC versus BCH, we talked about the Lightning Network, we talked about Craig Wright and BSV, which is now of course all ended in disaster with the Copa and so forth, but I think our takes on that are aging pretty well. We talked about Andreas Antonopoulos and some other sort of crypto figures who've now largely fallen out of the conversation, so that's a real window into how times change. On episode 46, which was April 2022, we talked about Elon buying Twitter, so that was now 2 years ago, and probably there's pretty substantial change we've seen as a result of that. We talked about Smart BCH, which at the time was just about to kind of collapse, but we didn't know that at the time, and how that was maybe going to be the future of BCH and where things could get to. And we also talked about, interestingly, I had no idea 2 years ago, the CTV drama. Things were getting started with, we're going to deploy CTV on BCH, on BTC, and that will be, the savior of our scaling and so forth. And it just, when I saw that, I was like, was that 2 years ago? So we're still here today, and I'm sure at that time, we were predicting, okay, well, they might say they want this upgrade or not, but then it takes a while, and then they're going to get stalled, and you can see 2 years later, are they any closer? Probably not. They're probably further than ever from getting that kind of implemented. And then the third one was episode 78, which was 1 year ago, and the conversation had changed a lot to CBDCs were being brought up. We talked about inflation ramping up and consumers starting to realize like that's what was going on. Merchant adoption. We talked about cash tokens and the improving wallets, which at the time, cash tokens was just about to be released, just like ABLA this year. It was cash tokens last year, so nothing had been deployed or rolled out really, but it was kind of in the works, and it was like, this will be the promising thing for the next year. And I think now we can see that a lot of that has actually been delivered on. So taking a look at any of these topics, does anything stand out to you as having changed or being surprising?
Surprising. No, I'm still like taken back by this whole Craig Wright thing and just wonder how it all ends. And, for him, I heard he had all his assets seized or something. And then, the Ryan X Charles thing. And, it's just, you feel bad because there's like there is some decent people over there. And like, you can kind of see like, this is not going well and it's not going to get better. Like, and, you kind of, for some people wanted to extend an olive branch, and then, so like looking at where we're at then and now, it's, I still think, we will, if you're and tying that into like, if you're really like concerned about like CBDCs coming in the future and you need a payment solution, a lot of those people are there. It's like, we're, I think we're the most logical way to do it. And, Smart BCH, while it looks like a stain when you look back on it here, like I really think it helped to bring some of the ecosystem to cash tokens. You see a lot of these transfers happening, and I'm like, we didn't realize like how much of an issue Mark Lamb was, and like it looked cool that he had like a cool looking business that was pro BCH, and didn't have enough information on him, and I wonder what he's doing. Like I see him on Twitter, like he has very little interaction. He's out there pumping and doing things and trying to be active. I heard his exchange is closed now, that he tried to reopen with the Three Arrows guys, and like so while he really, for better or for worse, I think having DeFi at the protocol layer and not second layer like Smart BCH was the ultimate right thing. I just feel bad for so many people in the ecosystem that lost a lot of money there because of people like Mark Lamb, and finding out what actually happened there, and and still don't have all the answers, but the way like he really like went after Roger, who I think has been through a lot, is like incredibly unfair to do someone that's invested a lot in the space. That one really stands as a smear. Any takes or anything recent of Mark Lamb? Like, why did his exchange close already? And like, why?
Well, I don't know. He's just sort of hiding out in Dubai, I think, because Dubai seems to be this weird hotspot, I don't know, of like crypto grifting a little bit, where people go because they're just a little bit beyond the reach of sort of the law or any repercussions of anybody who's kind of America or maybe even Europe based. He seems to be, he was kind of moved there and then started up his next exchange, OpenX, which was basically just the reinvented, failed CoinFlex scam with the Three Arrows guys. And then that had also collapsed, as far as I know, or they shut off, or they rugged some depositors or something. But the lesson there, though, was that the BCH community didn't fall for it a second time. I didn't see a lot of people being like, oh, I lost my BCH in OpenX or whatever. So somebody got scammed. I don't know, some other crypto people somewhere. But it was like we learned our lesson, right? It was bad, and not like we couldn't have known necessarily in advance, but still sometimes it takes touching the hot stove before you learn not to do that again, right? So yeah, I think it was weird though, because he also, after hijacking Bitcoin came out and a lot of people were saying, oh, Roger was right, or they were arguing about that, he started jumping on some threads I saw saying like, no, Roger's book is really good, he's like put in a good history, and it's like, you're the last person in the world that needs to be explaining to us about how Roger was right the whole time. Like, what about all the crap that you gave him,
Because I think that is like missing in this story. Like again, like the interview I heard with Hayden Otto is like he was withholding selling positions to lure in bigger investors, and then writing this narrative like this person was a degenerate and owes me all this money, when he just was, he ran into a bad situation going into a bear market and wanted to raise capital. Like, and he really lacks accountability. And what's crazy is I've been to dinner with I went to a dinner with like the blockchain.com people, some bitcoin.com people, and Mark Lamb's wife. I sat next to her for dinner and like was asking her questions about the business and all this too. And it's just like crazy to be close to people, and when they get in trouble or make a mistake, lacking the accountability and still running in this quasi trying to present myself as like, but mistakes happen. I don't know. It's so glad he's out in the ecosystem, but we trusted him to fund a bridge, and that it's terribly, but like again, I think that taught us. It took us, a while, because SLP, Smart BCH, and now Cash Tokens. You don't always get it right the first time. But I'm very excited. Cash Tokens it's already growing. It's gonna be huge. And 1 year in, excited to see what's being built. We're using it for our ticketing feature, and then I think we still look at CBDCs, and just talking a little bit about why we Bitcoin Cash is so important is because, like, there's I don't know, I just look at like where BTC is and like its failed mission, and then like it only really working in like a Strike account or or any of these other things. And like, I just think these, like if I were to put on my conspiracy hat, like I think like BTC is going to be papered over by L2s that will be CBDC compliant, and then eventually fractionally reserve and do all that. Like you just see like, and there's like good-hearted people in BTC, and it's like you're lining up this thing that like it's a conspiracy, but like it's like, so like it's happened before. Like it happened with gold. It happened, you know, like I'm watching, like you see there is still like a decent amount of people that like, you know, want humans to have, you know, sovereign control of their money and be able to send permissionless payments in BTC. Like this Vlad guy who's, you know, causing all kinds of drama within Bitcoin and like calling out the issues in the ecosystem, and like you know, in like being critical of people like Michael Saylor, who just spurts off techno babble and it doesn't really, like, it's just a tool for him to hemorrhage cash, and so his cash can go up. And you know, I don't know, I just like, it's like there's we're creating like this, there is a better way. Like when you guys are ready, we're building it, it's here for you. That's what I look at when I see here. It's like all these other attempts, and that you can see like just that Craig Wright wasn't going to go well. Lightning wasn't going to go well. Like this wasn't going to go well. You know, I feel like it's like, you know, BCH offers the way to financial freedom. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's something to that, in the sense that just consistently putting in the hard work. That's what I see as well too in this. When you look back at it, that first year, it was still, now the narrative has changed enormously, but in that first year, the show was still very new, firstly, so it hadn't had a chance to make that impact in the broader crypto scene. And also Time, of course, also has done a lot of the work, but there was still like people unsure, was BCH, is this falling apart, what was the problems with BDC and all that, you know. And so we went through a lot of that, and probably people who are new to the scene can still look back and listen to that, and it's all aging like fine wine. I'm very proud of the fact that basically every episode of the show since day one, you can go and listen to any episode of the show, and the takes are just so on point. In almost all cases, we've got it wrong once or twice, but really not that much. Like the future predictions always, except for price, like, but the substantive predictions are almost always come through in the end, and so also do the backward looking narratives and explaining how this is going to lead to that and so forth. It's just so on point. I really love that. And then
we got a lot right, you know. Lightning Network in April 21, like, people thought it was getting somewhere, you know. El Salvador, Chivo, and
yeah.
like it was all great, you know. Look at us today. All their information got leaked, and Craig Wright's going to jail. You know.
Exactly.
It's interesting to look back on.
Yes. So then let's say where are we at in the narrative now, and this is why I think it's a good lead-in, is because last year we were talking about CBDCs and we're talking about inflation. That's going to be coming up more on people's radar. Obviously, that has been. We did that last episode with Aaron Day. Fantastic. And in the general mindset, people are really starting to get, holy crap. So I've got a specific example here from Australia just this last week, where end consumers are finding they are unable to withdraw physical cash from banks. This clip is from a show called The Project, or at least it used to be called that. I don't know if it's still called that. I believe it's called that, which is basically this NPC TV show in Australia that's on, it's like the prime time slot. It's like 7:30 on weeknights when everybody gets home from work and sits down, like, what is today's daily propaganda? Boom, this is what's going to be delivered to a few million Australians. So let's have a listen to this and you can see sort of where things are getting to.
Well, outrage in Queensland tonight after a local woman rocked.
Wait, did it just pause?
Sorry, I was getting wild feedback. Give me 1 second. Oh, I think it's actually... All right, yeah.
Walked up to her bank to withdraw cash, only to be told they didn't have any. Taryn Compton wanted to grab some notes to pay a tradie, but when she got to the ANZ ATM, she realised she'd forgotten her EFTPOS card. When she asked the teller for the money instead, she was told the bank doesn't carry cash.
And Taryn Compton's here to tell us all about her terrible banking experience. Taryn, what did you think when you walked into a bank only to be told they don't have cash?
I thought it was absolutely crazy. I thought she must have misheard what I wanted, if I'm honest. How can you go to a bank and not be able to get your own money out?
Taryn, that's what I'm confused about. So what's in the bank if there's no cash? Isn't there, if you open up the safe, what's in there? How did they explain it to you?
They just said, I'm so sorry, we can't help you. There's nothing we can do. We don't have cash here.
So did you think maybe that was a temporary situation? That maybe they were going to get some cash tomorrow?
No, she actually said, we don't carry cash anymore. We can't help you. She did say, if you're desperate for it today, you can transfer it to another bank and try and get it out there, but we can't help.
Was she in on how absurd this was? Like, did she get it was like you were walking into KFC and they said, sorry, we don't do chicken?
No, she wasn't. She was just, I'm really sorry, we can't help you. We just don't have money here anymore.
Taryn, do you think that banks should carry money, as in cash?
I do. They have got my money in their banking system. I should be able to access it, right?
Have you heard anyone else have this similar experience, Taryn, or is this the first time that you've come across this?
This is the first time I have come across it myself, but my social media is blowing up with lots of people with the same experience.
What's the vibe of those people, Taryn? I'm guessing they're not thrilled that they can't access their own cash money.
Definitely not thrilled. And people are saying, where is it? Like, you have got my hard-earned cash. Where is it? I want it. And when the answer that you get is, I just don't have it, it really does get you thinking about our whole banking system.
Taryn, you should have sent the lady at the bank to an ATM to get money out to give to you.
I didn't think of that at the time.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I transferred it out of that bank into another bank and managed to get it out.
Wow. And so you were getting this for a tradie, is that true?
It is true.
Okay, I won't ask. Any more questions.
Ignore the mark at the desk, Taryn.
Look, Taryn, I work a bit in the cash economy, so I'm on your side. I'm on everyone's side here.
Good.
But there is a plus side to all of this. Will you be able to use this tactic with your kids when they ask for pocket money? So there's none in the bank. I can't help you.
I'll try.
Let us know how you go, Taryn. This is quite a story. Thanks very much for speaking to us.
No worries.
It is called the project still. All right, there you go. So, this really just tells you everything you need to know is that the cash is being phased out, and this is now being put on the news. But there's there's some jokes. There's a lot of jokes and yeah. But there's a couple of very serious questions in there that are not getting answered at all. Like, why did they just not have my money? What's in the safe? As he puts, there's nothing. But that's the whole scam. But instead, that's just like a joke or haha, wow, what a weird thing. Who really knows what's going on? But you can see her saying, all these people are coming to her and saying, I'm having the same experience. What's going on here? Everybody's confused and needing answers. But instead, the problem is just being laughed off as like, ha 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 ha. I sent this to my friend and he said, in reply, he said, they don't have cash at the bank. You know, your cash is gone. One step away from your money is gone, right? And it's gone. That South Park meme. That's going to be the next thing, right? And people are going to get completely blindsided about that. Of course, are they ever going to hear the real story of what's going on the project? No. They can hear it here on this podcast, and we have 1,200 downloads a month, and the what's it called? The project goes out to 10 million Australians, right? So it really is just a case of if you've got your head in the sand, you're not listening to the right info, they're coming for you. I don't know. What do you think? Did this surprise you at all?
No, I see it a couple different ways. I see it that there's moving away from cash and like the fungibility of money and being able to hold it, and for so any kind of central actor to not know where it is, like that. I see it as that, like they want to know where everything is. So digitizing it and only allowing it to be used digitized is part of like the CBDC goal is, to be able to run algorithms and curb society in a certain way by digitizing algorithms on the way money is spent. So I see it as that. And then there's the other side, like, do they actually have my cash? Because I think the first one's like, this is by design, this is where it's going. It's to create, an easier way to have, central, let's say, governments have control over the way the society runs. So cash won't be useful, and it actually could allow people to do things they don't want them to do, which crypto and Bitcoin Cash will be a useful thing. So if you feel like you're gonna be financially censored in some way, and if you don't want to be, cash can be a resource, gold can be a resource, Bitcoin Cash can be a resource. These things are CBDC resistant. And then the other thing is, are they actually having a run on our money? I know in the United States, I'm not sure where you guys are from, but there's a 10% reserve policy.
Not anymore, not after COVID, right? I think that's been taken out. It's now just free for all.
They don't have to hold any of your money?
I believe not.
So even if it was 10%, like, that's pretty problematic too. And again, at least in a free market, you could pick banks with different guidelines, and fractioning and reserving is like, that could be a policy up until a point, because they're taking money, they're lending money, they're allowing people to borrow at interest rates and make money off that and reinvest into the community to help businesses grow. But like, when it's, when they're not holding it, but there's also like an issue there too, because, and let's say like if I had cash here and I gave it to someone else, and then they can borrow 10, at the time they can borrow 10 times on everyone's money. But like, if I'm going and like giving it to like the mechanic, and then he's putting in his bank, then they can borrow 10 times on him and 10 times on him. And like, it just becomes this extrapolating thing. And then like, they're not going to have much cash at all, because they're running, very tight, the cash is not there. It's all gone, because they lent it out to so many people. So in terms of this, like, I'm not sure which way it is, if they're just like too reckless with people's money, or if they're just, like, the general trend is that there's not going to be, really any privacy of money for anyone. And that's the whole CBDC thing, where I think, Aaron's like the loudest guy. And I saw an interesting tweet yesterday. It's like, some people are like, hey, we're still early to Bitcoin. It's like, no, hopefully you're not too late, And we're probably late on so many things. When the early days, I remember up until 2017, like, you didn't get like 1099s on exchanges. They didn't have any of these, moving coins around and taxable event things. Like, we were so far ahead. Cryptocurrency transactions were so much better than PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, and like now like we've lost so much momentum, and and that's why like the block size world was so necessary to have like another way, because we were losing ground. We had such a chance. We had to move fast, and we failed. And now we're trying to still find alternative ways to provide, a financial tool for people. So,
not to backtrack too much, but there's a documentary from, I think, 2006, maybe 2008, where the first, I would say, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, really important. The rest of the documentary you can avoid. So it's called Zeitgeist Addendum. I say you can avoid the rest of the documentary because it's promoting something called the Venus Project, which hasn't worked out, and I'm pretty sure the founder unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. So
Jacques Fresco.
Yeah. I remember watching that. Man, I was maybe like 12 or 13 years old, and learning about fractional reserve banking. And they go over a document called Modern Money Mechanics, which I believe was released by the Reserve back in like the late 90s or maybe 2001 or something like that. And highly recommend it. It is the problem statement that cryptocurrency is trying to solve. If you still haven't figured that out yet, go revisit it.
What exactly are you talking about? I really enjoyed the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist and those films, and they're very interesting. Look at the problems today and just futurism in general. What exactly are you referring to?
The debt reserve banking. So Zeitgeist Addendum was them kind of being like, the Zeitgeist documentary was talking about all the problems that they had, but they didn't propose a solution at that point, right?
Yeah.
And the second one, they kind of try and propose that solution, and they talk about how corrupt the financial system is. And they're kind of, it seems like, promoting some type of communism as the solution to the monetary problem. Which is why I'm saying, just forget about the second half of the documentary. That first half where they talk about the problems of the monetary system was life-changing for me. And I really recommend people check it out.
It's funny you say that about watching that documentary when you're 12 years old, because I was thinking this week about, there's a series of children's books about Artemis Fowl. Anybody who listened to the show maybe does or does not know, by the Irish author Owen Colfer, that I read when I was a kid. And this came onto my mind this week because I was thinking about a big part of the plot of those books is about gold, and they're like trying to acquire the gold, and their family motto is like, I think, who has the gold has the power, or something like that. And it just was coming up in my mind, like, is this why I clicked with Bitcoin so quickly? Is this why I was able to get it? It's only when you look back in hindsight that you realize maybe just these small nuggets of info or threads of reality or whatever in your mind that then let you pick up on something that maybe some other kid who didn't read those books wasn't able to get about Bitcoin. So it's really interesting to hear. Like, this is how we need to get the next generation on board, right? We need to find ways to get them these ideas ahead of time, because they'll percolate in their brain, and then when it comes to be a problem later on, they'll have something to grab onto, right? Kind of don't know at the time, but in hindsight, it all comes clear. Anyway, the point is, you're aware of the fact that the banks are basically going to rug you, unlike poor Taryn or whatever her name was. So plan ahead and be ready and spread the word, because this kind of stuff is coming. And like we said, once again, it's aging pretty well. We said this is what's going to happen. I mean, bam, here it is.
Jeremy, probably similar to you, but I talk to so many people about cryptocurrency, and they always are like, oh, it seems like, risky. And I'm like, oh my God, like, not having crypto is risky. What do you like? You guys are playing in a very risky game over here. I'm not saying go all over here, but like the world is in, like, keeping your money in banks, and these things are incredibly risky. And look at the world today. Then they can kind of open their eyes to that. It's like, oh my God, I'm the one in a dangerous spot. Yeah, like I have most of my personal wealth in crypto, but so they think I'm risky, but like maybe I have too much, maybe I don't know. But maybe like having all of your wealth in fiat, like maybe you're the risky one,
Yeah, people aren't so good. I've been surprised to find throughout my life at anticipating the future, right? Which is something that I've always been sort of very sensitive to, but not everybody is. And in the same way as we see these BTC people, they're always posting us that price chart of the price going down. And I'm like, this has no information, literally zero information about the future on this chart. Because like, if things are going down in the past, okay, that happened in the past. But at some point, things change, and you're never going to be able to see that if you're only looking at the backwards information, right? Like, it's not to say that the past is completely irrelevant. A lot of if you don't know the mistakes of history, you're bound to repeat them and all that sort of stuff. But the whole point of the future is that the future is not like the past. That's why it's the future. It's different. New things get innovated, new trends come up, social consensus changes, whatever. So like, when people think that their banks are really safe, it's mostly just because they have only lived in a bubble where it's always been safe, and everybody else they know thinks it's safe. Like, there's a sort of strong social consensus to there. They will feel like it's unsafe when everybody else feels like it's unsafe, which happens as a gradually then suddenly kind of tipping point, right? So that's why it's been so interesting talking to the guys from Argentina and stuff like that. The difference between Argentina and Australia is just absolutely unreal in terms of talking to people in those two countries, because just the history and everything, their view of the world is like completely opposite. So anyway, I've got along great with the BCH Argentina guys, and it makes me wonder it makes me realize why I didn't really like Australia that whole time. I always felt like, oh, there's something off here. I was just born on the wrong continent. Anyhow, so that's Cash. Cash is on the way out, but at the same time, BCH is on the way in. It's finding its way into the BTC narrative here. We've had recently, obviously, the release of Hijacking Bitcoin, which I've now read in full, and I think it's fantastic. There was nothing in it that surprised me or was kind of new to me, but I'm as deep down the rabbit hole as you can get, and I lived all of this. The reaction that I've had from so many other people, even people who've been involved in crypto and everything, has been tremendous in terms of, wow, this is all this stuff I didn't know. This it really puts down the elements one by one, all clearly laid out so people can see it. Obviously, some people have been upset about it because that's a narrative that their mind doesn't want to accept, but for the most part, it's really done a lot of opening people's eyes. And we talked on episode 78 last year about, will people be able to unplug from BTC and come into BCH? And we're seeing a bit of a mix. We're seeing some people slowly kind of convert, and then we've also been seeing this new development that I hadn't expected or we haven't seen before, which is people who realize that BTC is wrong, but they, instead of switching, they need to find a reason not to switch. So they've got to come up with a narrative to justify why BCH is bad, and they can't switch. So I've got two examples here that I'm going to quickly read out from, first of all, Ray Youssef, who said on Twitter, quote, "The BCH community has many good people, and the true spirit of freedom money lives there yet, ... The levels of butthurt among them is utterly suffocating. Many of them are still cringely bitter over the Reddit banning and the block size wars. This will always be a ceiling, ... end quote. And then Paul Stortz, who have been on the show, we called him out. He had a similar thing. He quoted that and said, quote, "This is a tough love post. As you know, I write these a lot. BCH has harmed themselves through misunderstanding network effect / governance / politics. Thus, they lost a lot of money and influence. Furthermore, by leaving BTC and then failing, BCH has harmed BTC greatly by creating a one-party state over here, led by the worst of their enemies, the toxic small blockers. Overconfidence and complacency were stoked in BTC to the potential ruin of us all. In particular, the spirit of compromise or even problem solving was basically extinguished. They basically abandoned us to the crazies. Thus, overall, the creation of the BCH community was probably a net loss for, quotes, Bitcoin and for humanity, even though many of their critiques were borne out, and even though we all got free coins. In a way, it is because BCHs were right about a bunch of things that it was very counterproductive for mankind for them to fork off, fight over the Bitcoin name, experience the same governance problem a second time, be invaded by opportunists like CSW, and then lose." End quote. So between these two guys, I just think it's fascinating that they can't kind of, at least not yet, I'm sure they will over the next couple of years, come to this understanding of like, BCH was right. We saved Bitcoin, but in their mind, they're like, they've gone from BCH are wrong, or they're scammers, or they're doing it the wrong way, or whatever, and they've now understood, no, we picked wrong. We were on the wrong side. BTC got it wrong, and if we hadn't provided an alternative, they would be able to say, oh, wouldn't it be good if we'd done something different back in the day, etc. But they can't just say that, because we are providing an alternative. So that if they really mean it, they have to put their money where their mouth is and switch to BCH. But they're still in the cope about that. So now they have to find an excuse for why they can't just switch to BCH and help us actually fucking fix the problem. And so this stuff about BTC is still toxic and whatever. Okay, 3 years ago, maybe that was valid. Community is very different these days, and writing us off as just salty losers, I'm not having a bar of that. There is maybe some fragments of that, but it's really not the main story. So not having a bar of that, that's an excuse. And also, oh, well, why didn't the BCHs, like saying that the BCHs who left and saved Bitcoin are the ones who sank everything and screwed it by abandoning them to the toxic ones. It's like, well, we tried to fix the problem there and we couldn't, and so now we've made a solution. Like, you can't just say, why didn't you just stew with us forever? Like, if we had, we would all be in BTC and we'd be completely fucked. So it's just, you know, I wonder how long we're going to see this kind of justifying. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I commented on Ray's post. I said it doesn't sound like you're paying close attention. Simply, you're living on some old narrative, and also like I don't understand how a lot of these people who have probably similar passions and worldviews as us like live their daily lives. Like part of my daily life is I give away so much crypto every year because like it's like I show people how to use cryptocurrency. Like you love it, you do it, and all this, and like I'm assuming you're showing people like effective ways to use it, but like what are you showing them? Are you sending them? I was playing around with the wallet last night, and like this, like even as the network slowed down a little bit, but to send BTC, $10 is going to cost like $8. Like, how are you showing the world the power of cryptocurrency? And like the best tool I found to show people what it can mean and have them click and understand, like, oh my God, like this Bitcoin thing's not that impossible to understand, is by giving them some Bitcoin Cash. I just don't understand, like how is that being stuck in some old narrative? I'm just showing people how they can use this tool, and like how they show them some examples on why it's useful. It doesn't it's just politicking. It's all it is to try to stay relevant. And again, like I think what I mentioned earlier about personality surveying, we could be dealing with influential people who just don't have a lot of vision and just see the moment at now, and they can't see past it. And I think we're in a position where there's going to have to be people that are just running up against the wall. We talked about CTV 2 years ago, and now you have people that are frustrated that still at BTC, and they're talking to big blockers, and eventually, we were there in 2017, we're banging our head against the wall, and nothing was fucking happening. And what are you gonna do? Like how long will you bang your head against the wall for? And just go build. I don't understand. Even some people that for example, Colin talks crypto. He understands how bad Bitcoin is and all this, and yet he has years ago he sold off his BCH and he's all in Bitcoin, and he trashes Bitcoin every day.
Not recently. Recently, he's been a bit more positive, and he's been saying, BCH is actually still kind of the real Bitcoin. And then he has various different excuses every time it's something different. He was saying recently this one about, all the UTXOs have split off. The BCH investors are now completely different to the BTC investors, and all the money is on the BTC side. So that's a huge incentive for them to get their act together and raise the block size. And I sort of wrote back to him and explained why that's not true. It's actually the other way around. Now they've just ossified with a bunch of people that don't want it to change, right? And they believe in the small blocker, delusions and so forth. So it was good. We were having some chat with him, but I agree with you that he's in that same camp of they need to, the narrative in their mind needs to flip, and it's such a big flip. That's why they find it so hard, and they have so many excuses along the way from I was wrong back then. These guys knew then, and they've done the right thing since. You need to get to that before you can get over all this kind of gaslighting and lost path that they've now realized is not working.
Yeah. So that general consensus of people knowing BCH is right, but not willing to hop on the train is it's what, do your thing. When you're ready, the train's still moving. Curious while we're talking, I'm not sure how much you know him, but Cobra, he had some
yes,
rather positive comments and some back and forth with Adam Back. Curious your thoughts on Cobra, his experience with BCH over the years. Again, he was, I think, at a time going to be a big blocker, then went full BTC, but now he's oh my God, more people are going to find out the truth, and maybe it's going to change narratives. And I've read bits of the book. I haven't gone full into it. I lived it. And but I think it was so well written. It's undeniably written. This is what occurred. It wasn't a narrative pushing book, which I thought was. It could have been written that way, but it was just almost like proof of work. This is what happened. And what are your thoughts on Cobra? Do you have any?
Well, I haven't been following too much of his most recent post because at a certain point Adam went on his big blocking spree and he blocked everyone, you know, fingers in the ears, la 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 la, I can't hear you. We're really starting to get under his skin, right? So whatever banter has been the most recent stuff, I certainly haven't seen any of that. But I did, Cobra, it always struck me as, I mean, maybe it's just some guy out there who is on his computer and is a bit of a, you know, weird character in crypto, like plenty of them in the early days. But it always struck me as a bit of like, it could be basically the same guy as Thamos, or it could be essentially just a sort of co-opted part of the PSYOP. I think if he, for anybody who doesn't know, he was the one who runs the Bitcoin.org site, I believe. And he was famously on the side of sort of the censorship and all that in the Blocksize war. I believe he's quoted at least once, maybe in the Bitcoin, in the Hijacking Bitcoin. And I think he also maybe even appeared in episode 1 of the Bitcoin Cash podcast, because in that show we talked about, or I talked about the white paper. And at that time, because he was saying we need to rewrite the white paper, like it's confusing the noobs and all that sort of stuff. And he said that, and we talked about that on the very first episode of the show, I believe, because they were trying to take the white paper off the Bitcoin.org website. And that was at the time the Bitcoin Cash podcast started. And so I started out by showing, look how much big of a scam this whole thing is, like rewriting the narrative. I got sick of seeing the narrative written. I was like, we got to document all this. And now we have with the show, right? So I just think, even if he is making some noises or saying something like maybe the big blockers were right or whatever, to me, it's probably just more PSYOP. It's all just creating confusion. And like, is he genuinely having a change of heart and going to come around to the big bloke? No, it's just more gaslighting and delays and FUD, and it's the same thing he can do as some of these other guys can be like, well, maybe the big blockers were right, but it's too late, and but they were wrong about all these other things, and but we can't really go over there and talk to them because they're still stupid shitcoiners, and but they don't have the network effect, and but blah 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 blah. Like we've now got to the phase of like Bcashes were right, but just this huge litany of excuses.
I know. It used to be that we were just wrong about everything. Now we're right. But so we're making steps.
That's right. At some point we're gonna have to get through all those buts, but time will kind of clean that. Time will sort that out for us. But it's going to be fascinating just to watch as each individual person goes through that journey, right? And they're each going to have their own amount of steps and cope. Like you would hope that some of them can just kind of see the light and switch. Like, for instance, Aaron Day, it was so good to have him on the show, right? And he's been BCH friendly for a long time. I'm not saying that he hasn't, but, you know, BSV kind of collapsed and whatever. And he realized, like, wait a second, just BCH had it right from the start. And he's kind of jumped on that pretty strongly. And I really hope that we can see more people in that. The snowball will start if even just 2 or 3 of these moderately influential BTC people can have that clarity of breakthrough, but they need to have that breakthrough and then they need to act on it. Like this Ray Youssef, it seems like he's mostly got the idea. He might even entirely have the idea, but if he's still tiptoeing around it and still not willing to just come out and say like, look, the Bcashes were right, I got scammed, fuck this, guys. We need to switch into BCH and get this going like right now.
Yeah,
if he's not willing to do that, then
in terms of like market opportunity or just in general, like it's, you know, with BCH being I think like a $12 or $13 billion coin and BTC being a $1 trillion coin, it's not going to take changing that many few people's minds to like allow BCH to be such a better opportunity. You know, in terms of like, you know, essentially everyone, the reason it's still BTC because numbers gone up, right? So that like it's validated their narrative. But like moving forward, it's, you know, understanding and pointing out the history is important because maybe they're following a false narrative. And once number go up, team finds a better number go up team, then what are they investing in? You know, So and it's going to continue to lose market share. It's going to continue to underperform other coins. And then what do they really have? At the end of the day, they have, an expensive chain to move around. Yeah, maybe it's super difficult to hack, but it doesn't really do anything. I don't know.
Yeah, so I've got meme of the week here. It's from CypherCat, who has been crushing it recently. Shout out to CypherCat. And he's done that meme of the captain, look at me, I'm the new Bitcoin standard now with the hijacking Bitcoin. That just captures it. This is just completely overtaken the block size wars and the Bitcoin standard as the must read Bitcoin books. This has just come out here, boom. Now that's it. It's like, if you haven't read this, you kind of just don't know what's going on in Bitcoin. And that's making a huge turnaround, I would say, in the narrative, especially, and we didn't have a slide about this, but we just had the BTC halving, right? And fees have gone up, or went up to $400 a transaction. Someone paid $500,000, $497,000 for one transaction, where they were all trying to mint the runes, which is basically their new version of SLP tokens. They're just trailing BCH by about 6.5 years. But hopefully they can eventually clue in that an indexer-based fungible token system is not going to work, least of all on a high-fee chain like BTC. But regardless, the point is, then fees were $40 and $50. It seems like now today they're at $12. So still really, really high. But I think all using it as P2P cash is basically dead at this point. I don't know. What's your thoughts, Jet? How are we doing with the collapse of the whole P2P cash on BTC capitulation?
Oh, I think we still got a lot of time before we see a real collapse.
Okay.
I wish it was sooner.
What will it take?
I'm still waiting for the Tether implosion. I feel like that's got to happen at some point. They are, I would suspect, the most corrupt entity dealing with cryptocurrencies. It's amazing to me that. Oh, hold on.
Looks beautiful outside in Florida. Wow.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my kids are moving around, so I just wanted to step outside. My apologies.
It's all good. Do you have headphones by chance?
Not on me. Is the reverb bad?
Yes, pretty bad.
Let's see here. Let me go back on there.
Oh, hold on. Let me. Let's try this. And did we lose you again? Yep. All right. Yeah, I want Tether to go under. I think if Tether goes under, we'd see sub 20k BTC, and it would be really interesting to see what happens to BCH at that point.
Nice. Oh, he's in and out. All right, well, let's just crack on then. Anyway, we got community comment of the week, as we can see a bit of the degeneration in the narrative. Thought Fan said, quote, "I thought I'd quantify the impression I got as to the category of maxi responses in this tweet," which was from a Sal the Agorist tweet where he said, "TBF, there's really no need for a BTC BCH debate. 7 years later, Bitcoin Cash works and Bitcoin doesn't." So Thought Fan went through and had a look at what is the actual feedback that we're getting. He got here's the numbers. Roger Sock Puppet, that was 3 people. Have Fun Staying Poor, that was 3 people. Market Has Spoken, chart, store of value since 2017, market cap, hash rate, or mining reward. Whinging, that was 24 people. Vaguely Interesting or Other Maxi Talking Point, 21 people. And the winner is Ridicule/Memes, 35 people. Anyone would think I didn't have better things to do with my life. So this really just about sums it up. Like, upset memes and laughing and gifs and just any sort of 80 IQ response, by far the most common response, followed by the market has spoken, even though actually over time it's starting to speak differently, and then, you know, vaguely interesting coming in at a third place. But there's really just the overwhelming majority, like 70+% of the response to BCH rising in prominence, hijacking Bitcoin, changing narrative, and now the on-chain and undeniable high BTC fees that have sunk. I've seen a lot of people saying like, oh, I'm really glad we've got these high fees because finally we'll need to fix Lightning. Like, now the fees are high. Now we've got the proper incentives to make it work.
Man, my brother messaged me yesterday asking about just a multi-coin wallet that I'd recommend. And I was like, depends on what you're trying to hold, right? And he said, well, the ones I see the most are Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash. And it was at that moment that fees were over $400. And I was like, what the fuck are you going to do with BTC? Let's say, and he's saying that he's like earning it for odd jobs and stuff. Well, how do you, okay, you make $100. Oh, I'm going to mute you for a second, Ryan. All right, so like you make $100. How are they going to send you the money? Oh, you're going to get onto Lightning? And then what? Like, what is the end goal for you with this? And my recommendation, I know the fees have dropped, but they'll rise again, is just use anything else. Anything else. Is there another chain where we've seen fees get to $400 before?
No. And this was by far the all-time high in terms of fees being sort of paid and spiking on BTC. It was quite incredible. The halving block had more than 2.5 million. It was something like 37 BTC, maybe even 40 in fees paid. So that is actually quite impressive. But of course, it couldn't sustain itself. It was mostly just off people trying to mint their runes into the halving block, and things have now died off quite significantly. But it really is just putting the nail in the coffin, the stake through the heart of, we're going to use BTC as a peer-to-peer cash system. No, it's just become the JPEG speculator chain. I think that's increasingly clear, even to the most hardcore of the cultists who don't want to believe it. So yeah, Ryan, we were just having a look at some of these responses. What are the latest sort of copes and narratives? It really just comes down to the most low IQ BCH is a shitcoin, and the price has gone down. Besides that, there's no arguments left, really.
Yeah, how's the volume now? Is it better? Or the reverb?
Yeah, I just have to set up echo cancellation every time you join again. So it takes me a second, but
yeah, you know, and you know, I think a fair thing, again, to play the other side, is that they're I guess you could say, and I wonder what your response would be to this, Jeremy. There's high demand for their chain, right? Like that's so it's running up against this wall, and that's a sign of a blockchain in high demand. But like there that also has a consequence. What do you comment back to people saying like, hey, it's, you know, this is, you know, a fee market's created with a chain with high demand, so we must be doing something right.
Yeah, well, they're correct in one sense about that. It's one of those many things where, like, if you're 50% right, you can sound convincing, even if you're kind of mixing things together, right? So do the high fees, and is the demand on BTC a good thing? Yes. I wish that BCH had that much demand, absolutely. And they say BCH has low demand, BTC has high demand. That's spot on, true, very true. But what they're getting wrong is they're mixing up the sort of the cause and effect, right? They say we've got a low block size and we have high demand, therefore the low block size causes the high demand, right? But correlation is not causation. That's not true. What's causing the high demand is the brand and the hash rate and the perception that BTC is the most secure storage, and also, of course, this accident / sabotage that they can store their inscriptions or now their runes like into the chain, right? So although runes is op return based, so ironically they've now come full circle with some of the guys were saying, look, we got to add filters and cut out all these scams with inscriptions. But even if they do that, they're now just using op return, which is what the filter people told them they should do instead, and now they're doing that. So it's come full. There's no way to get rid of all this speculation on BTC now that that's become part of the kind of zeitgeist, right? But I would say, yeah, it's great. BTC does have truly amazing demand, and I doubt it's caused by the block size limit, but maybe at least in part it is. Where I think they're going to run into problems is that's great until it isn't, right? Like if BCH is actually building a real economy, and again, real is a bit subjective, right? People might say, oh, well, it is a real economy trading these runes and whatever. Yes, but it's not like what we were talking about with actual businesses with thousands of customers making peer-to-peer payments to each other, right? So once that starts to get rolling on BCH, which has taken a long time because of all the history and fights and having to rebrand and then having to rebuild up the tech and so forth. But once BCH gets that advantage, then all the liquidity and commerce will build up on that side, and then that will also become the place to do the runes and whatever else, right? So it's like a bucket of water overflowing when the fees are getting high. It's like we're pouring a lot of water into our bucket and now the bucket's overflowing. But look, we've got a lot of water coming into it. It's like, yes, but if you had a bigger bucket, you could capture more of that water. You're wasting a lot of water, and eventually people stop pouring water in that bucket and they start using a different bucket because it's the same thing with liquidity in the markets. So yeah, they're right. BTC is getting a lot of demand, and that's great for their chain. But the side effects, which is of people fighting over whether or not they should raise the block size, whether or not this should be allowed, whether it's filtering, that all comes with it, and that's a really big problem.
Yeah, I wanted to add, there's with the current infighting in BTC, and you'll hear people say, well, then go use Bitcoin Cash. And then when people are saying, when something good's happening for Bitcoin Cash, using it. So it's like I like this analogy. It's like there's two ways to build the tallest building. You can either build the tallest building, or you can tear down everyone else's. So it's like, and I think that when we talk about BTC, it's because we are having to deal with people trying to tear down our building. Yes. And that's why we have to deal with it. And they're saying, oh, it's always going to be a ceiling. It's like, no, we're literally being attacked all the time and led on this propaganda that we are, something else. It's like, no, we are what you thought Bitcoin was going to be when you wanted to get involved on peer-to-peer cash. And that's why, it's so important we exist. And, we're still, at a very big market cap. We're, top 15 coin. And I take that seriously, and that's why I went to the Back to Cobra. You can't underestimate this book because it's going to be read by very influential people, and it probably already has. And Kim.com tweeted yesterday that he was talking to some very large mining companies for Bitcoin that were essentially just like, yeah, this is not going to work, and we're taking BCH very seriously. And it's hard to separate the two. One day, because I feel like we're really going up against something bigger than we all think. That's the reason why, Bitcoin did not deliver on what it set out to do. And it's, I think BCH we have a real strong chance today to deliver on what the promise was, and it has not been a fucking easy road. And look at all the comments here. It's all bullshit. Sock bucket, market. Stolen value, all this, ridicule. It's some days it's tiring, and some days we're up for the fight, you know. But it's you know, it's been a good year in terms of since the last time we spoke, and price appreciation and market sentiment overall.
Yeah. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
We got.
Okay, let's go.
We got question of the week here. We haven't done one of these segments in a while because we just haven't got around to it. But I think today we have for it. This one comes from TX Ariv, who says, 1, do you have any fiat bank account plus payment card? And 2, do you have any BCH bank account plus payment card? Kind of getting to the idea of people have these like Coinbase or BitPay or whatever different companies that provide a credit card essentially that you can use backed by BCH or other crypto stuff. Ryan?
Do I have any fiat bank account plus payment card? So yeah, I have a card, and I typically use a credit card. Do I have any BCH bank account plus card? I currently have not used any. I use wallets, you know. I use Celine, Paytaka, and Bitcoin.com currently. Yeah, I can see the interest to, especially with you know, like there's different companies and different products coming out. Like if someone swiped their card in a POS, and the POS had no idea it was even backed by crypto and just turned into fiat, I saw that product's out there. That could be interesting, just because if you have a lot of crypto, but like I don't have, I don't know how other people live their lives, but like I'm primarily in crypto, so that would be, I guess, somewhat easier. Like I feel like I could live my entire life on crypto, and that would be one way to make it easier for me to do it and not hold any fiat and let other people do what they do. So I could see that being interesting. Of course, it just feels like you're just selling your coins, but I essentially sold all my dollars, so I don't know. What about you guys?
I do have a BCH. Well, I have a fiat bank account. Yes, I have one or two of those, and I use it fairly regularly. Sad to say, I wish I didn't have to. I wish my entire life could operate on BCH, and obviously there's people out there, Bitcoin Jason, Joel Valenzuela, different other people who have gone to the effort of getting to a point where they can just use BCH all the time. I salute those people, and they're doing great work, but for me, it's just not a battle I can fight right now. And I think, doing this show and doing everything else that I do in the BCH community is kind of my contribution until we get to a point where BCH is a bit more mainstream. That said, do I, use it whenever I can or whenever it's, fairly doable? Yes, obviously I use BCH as much as I can. Do I have any... And I also don't have that much of my net worth in fiat, like relatively little, right? Do I have any BCH bank account? No. And I've never tried or used any of these ones. I've never done the BitPay one or the Coinbase one or any of these other ones. I've not even been super interested in it. To me, it's a bit of a worst of both worlds hybrid. I don't if I want to use crypto, I'll just use crypto, right? I think these things kind of mixing concerns and sort of being like, well, you can sort of use BCH, but at the end of the day, it's still basically just fiat. I don't think... I mean, maybe some people use it and that's great and good for them and whatever, but I'm just kind of like, what's the point? If I'm going to have a fiat card and be in the fiat system, just put me in the fiat system. Like, I think that's just muddying the waters. To get kind of halfway there, you get none of the upside and all the downside. So, and at the end of the day, we want to get to everything just being purely BCH. And I feel like those crypto credit cards muddy the water along the way. So that's my answer.
That's my answer.
Sorry, am I included in this?
Yeah.
What's your answer?
Yeah, so I have a bank account with fiat. It is also like way less of my net worth than what I have in cryptocurrency. And I have always been like very straightforward. I'm not going to be using anything that's like, this is exactly how much crypto this person has. This is how they spent it, where they spent it. I'm not doing that shit. So, I'll wait for direct adoption. Maybe if I was in a situation like Canada also just increased their capital gains tax stuff. And so maybe if I was really familiar with the rules around like how long you have to hold it before that tax is like reduced by 50% or something like, but even that's just so much more like effort and paperwork to think about. Like, okay, so I have to wait for the price to rise this much, but not this much because then my capital gains is too much. But I also have to hold it for so I don't do this conversion back to fiat. I will spend it directly, and that's about it.
Love it. Love it. All right, we got
message.
Just as we're coming to the end of the show, as per usual, Ryan, what is it these days, after all your other previous messages to the community, today, what's topical? What does the BCH community need to hear?
Wow. I'm thinking of some of my other send-offs, and, I think last year my sentiment was just like, shout out to you guys that, been through it. Because, like, the last couple years, we were, dealing with going into a bear market and the CoinFlex collapse and the Smart BCH collapse. And yet, like, there's just, like, this, I feel like there's this part of the BCH community is just, like, a cockroach, right? They'll never go away, and like you need cockroaches. It makes me think about have you guys ever heard the founding story of Airbnb?
Yeah,
you
told that on one of the
episodes. Okay, all right, I won't tell it again, but that reminds me a lot of the BCH community. So, and now that we are in a rising tide situation, when I felt like we had to be, really defiant to market factors, and I think since the last time I was on the show, we've ranked like 15 coins in market cap. You stick to the principles, keep on improving. I think we're just still like sticking, very guided to what the intended goal was here, and I think that's starting to pay off. And it's I've met some of the most amazing people, and in terms of worldview and what they want to do for humanity and the tools and actionability, and hope to see some of you guys at Bliss on May 14th and 15th, and I can shake your hands. I got to meet a lot of you guys in St. Kitts, and it was kind of cool too. Like I've never felt like a celebrity, I never will, but like when you want people come and walk up and shake your hand because they've seen you on YouTube before, and like it was a cool feeling, and they're appreciative of putting out content. It's always nice to meet those people that you're interacting with so often, but you don't know it. So thank you guys for that, and we'll see you at Bliss. Excited to hear a lot about cash tokens. I think this would be a huge thing. I think cash tokens, a year of building the ecosystem, and now a year of really pushing those things out, and it's going to be huge. So keep building. That's all I can say.
All right, love it. Well, I think we'll just wrap up the show on that then. We got our supporter appreciation, as always, our donators. Thank you very much. Some of that direct P2P transacting going on. Our patrons, Ricky and HP, legendary as always. Our sponsor, General Protocols. Check out bchbull.com, and our Flipstarter funders, Majamali Marcelo, Shadow of Harbinger, Molecular, B2C Fork, Adam Back, even if he saltily blocked me on Twitter, Big V, Cheapy Cheap Lightning, Emergent Reasons, Imaginary Usernames, Yeah Beer, and Brian Kanachi. If this is your first time listening to the show, go and check out episode 85. And then go and watch some of the previous episodes with Ryan. It'll really add a little context and flavor to all that. Try out Selene Wallet at Selene.cash. Try the Start Guide and FAQs at BitcoinCashPodcast.com. Final shout out, and where can people find more of you, Ryan?
Follow me on Twitter. I finally fixed my handle. It's Ryan M. Giffin. I'm pretty active there, especially lately. On Instagram, I post there pretty much daily at rgiffin89, and then of course my YouTube channel, I upload a video just about every week. Again, Ryan Giffin there. If you would, again, I'll see you at Bliss, June 3rd in South Florida. I'm also hosting my charity golf tournament. I'll be talking more about that in the coming months. So, and then, follow me on these platforms. I do a quarterly meetup at Ravish, BCH meetup. So try to stay pretty active and involved with the community. And Jeremy and Jet, thank you guys for everything you guys do. Huge shout out to you guys. You guys have created a great cornerstone and for the community to go in depth and to have these conversations that are very important and need to be had. And congratulations on surpassing 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. I know you guys have worked super hard, and 1,200 downloads a month. Like that's awesome. And I'm sure it's gonna continue to go exponentially higher.
Jet.
I don't really think anything for me. I guess shout out to my brother getting back into crypto, but I've been pestering him for so long. Like it just should have happened like years ago. So here's a half-assed shout out, Drew.
All right, and my shout out goes to anyone coming to Bliss, because I'm really looking forward to see you again. You got 9 days still to get tickets, so it might be a bit last minute, but options still open. Jump on there, bliss.cash. Some of those Jessicas, they need a little bit of love, so get in there, because they're very nice ladies, a lot of them. And also, yeah, I'll give a shout out as well to Ryan, because it's pretty cool. Like you said, this is the 4th episode over 3 years. We also do the Christmas episodes as well too, which is really cool. So we're kind of 3 years in, with between those 4 episodes, and I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, I went back and I was watching some segments from the previous episode, and you can really see how things have changed at any one moment. We're just sitting there, discussing what's topical and what's going on, but sometimes you got to look back to see how far you've come. It is pretty cool to hit 2,000 YouTube subscribers, and that number is slowly growing. I'm at 8.3K on Twitter. Really looking forward to hitting 10K there as well too, maybe in the next year or so, whatever it is. And yeah, the word is definitely getting out there, and so it's beholden on us to keep producing quality shows. And as long as we have quality guests, it's also really nice to have a few regular segments. I really like about that. We have you every year in April. We have the meme competition in late June or early July, I think. I'm cooking some stuff for that with Luke Pryor. We got the listener survey and the Christmas episode. So between all those things, it's really nice, I think, for long time listeners of the show as well too. It's cool to have those running themes. So I think that'll do it for everybody. Thank you for listening to the show. Until next time.
See ya.
Exit the CBDC nightmare.
Jessica, you are my girl. I cannot wait till you take on the world. Your bubblegum shades and your green hair. When you show up, everyone stares. Baby, you're free economy. Yeah, it's the perfect drug for me. Hey, we left behind the BTC and found a big Costco hot dog. You and me, Bliss. Did you know you are mine? Bliss. Jessica, habla, babe. When I'm with you, what can I say? When we're together, baby, I got no fear. All my transactions are peer to peer to peer.